Stop streaming. Okay. I think we're there. I'm just going to check and make sure. Come on. It says it's waiting for us. I don't know what that means. There we are. I think. Yes. Okay. Great. We're good. Hold on. I gotta mute it now. There we go. Mute. Okay. Alrighty. So welcome everybody to Amber Cook and Isabel Spradlin's podcast episode. Amber and Isabel talk business, specifically massage practice business, and in the larger context, because Amber Cook, of course, runs healingways.com, and she serves not just massage therapists, but it's all about holistic practitioners throughout the whole shebang, right? And so
over 5 different modalities.
Yes, amazing. And so while I at yourmassagepractice.com really focus on massage therapists and helping massage therapists build their own private practices, I love working with Amber and collaborating with her in this way because, you know, everything that we talk about and even everything that I talk about with massage therapists applies to most people in private practice. So we are, as always, so excited to be here for our podcast episode. Woohoo! Great. So Amber, tell us what we are in for today.
Well, this is perfect because Isabel and I have decided to talk about how running a practice is actually work, right? Unless you want to do your practice as a hobby, then that's different. You can still listen on. We might teach you some fun things. You laugh at us, but but if you really want it to be a business, which I'm hoping you do because it's so worth it and it pays off so big. It is work. There's aspects of their work. So that's what we're going to chat about today. And I know we just kind of powwowed a little bit before, but we're super excited to talk about that. So
yeah, I mean, I think we both feel like it's just an underserved area of what gets talked about when running any kind of business, honestly. So there's so much inspirational material in the world and online, right? Like you can do it, dream big, manifest your dreams, things like that. And that's all useful and has a place for sure. But when you're running a business, it's too easy to get caught in the trap of thinking like if you just dream it or if you just meditate it or want it bad enough that it will simply happen. But the reality of owning a business is that you've got to put the rubber to the road and you have to make it happen. You know, like you go out and you take all of that inspiration and you parlay that inspiration into action. And sometimes it's not the most like, it's not the action that you really want to be doing. It's a learning curve. It's a learning edge. It's a growth edge. And to me, that's the beautiful part of running my own practice is not that it works at some point, but that in the process of making it work, I learn so much about myself and I grow, you know, like I do things that that are uncomfortable within my integrity. I don't ever have to step outside of my own integrity in order to grow. Like I can make these things decide like, oh, I'm going to do this thing that I kind of don't want to do because it's unknown or I've never done it before or it seems kind of scary or I don't totally understand the purpose of like, why am I trying this? Yeah. But as long as it's within my own integrity, then I'll try it and I'll push and I'll be uncomfortable or I'll have an awkward conversation or I'll reach out to somebody that I don't know how they're going to respond to me. And that's real work. It's internal work. It's external work. It's growth work. It's a little uncomfortable. It can be really tiring. And it's worth it. Like that is the work of running a successful practice of any kind, right?
Yep. Totally agree. Yeah, definitely. Well, as we were talking, yeah, I mean, everybody wants to talk about all the fluffy stuff. You know, do all the affirmations and the meditations and the rituals. And I totally am down for all that stuff. And like I was saying to Isabel, but if we sat around just doing that stuff and didn't do the work piece, didn't do the action piece, we'd sit there meditating all day long with no clients coming in. They're just not going to come in just because of that.
And I know that for a fact because that's what I did for the first 6 months of my practice.
Okay. Yeah.
So I tried it. Totally tried it. Doesn't work. And actually, before we continue, I just want to say thank you. I see that we have some watchers on the YouTube live stream. So, of course, we're recording the podcast episode, but we are here live on the YouTube thing. So if you have questions, throw them into the chat box, and we will certainly, answer to them to the best of our ability. Or if it's a topic that's kind of like for the future, we'll let you know that. But please do chat with us. Throw something into the chat box if you want to say hi or ask a question now or as we go. So.
Yes, totally. Yes, tell us that you're here at least. Just, pop a hi in there. And so I was going to say, so you tried that for the first 6 months?
Sitting around just like I knew it was going to happen, and I knew that just knowing it was going to happen was going to be enough to fill my practice. And I had like 3 or 4 clients a week.
So I hit the road, literally like handing out flyers, doing all the things, what people say, like the more masculine energy things, the get stuff done things, like right from the beginning. I knew that's what I needed to do. But at the same time, I was sharing an office suite with a shaman. She's, hey, Yohani?
From New Jersey, yay. Hi.
Jersey, hey. So I share this office space with this shaman, Reiki practitioner. She's actually the one that gave me my Reiki attunements. Amazing, amazing woman. But she just swore that that's what she did. That was how she grew her practice, was through these different affirmation techniques. And I just remember just getting like really jealous. Like, how is she able to do that? But then I realized she actually wasn't that successful in her practice. Like, she appeared that way, but as I got to know her more, she wasn't. It was the people that were doing the work stuff. They were the ones that were really rocking their practice.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Patrice, hi. And Louis, cool. Thanks, everybody, for being here and for saying hi to us. We love it. And so that's one thing that I talk about actually quite often is that for the people who... looks can be deceiving, right? So somebody can seem to be more successful than they are, and somebody can also make it seem like they're not doing a whole lot of work and their practice is full. Mm-hmm. And the reality is part of that is personality. Like, they do things very naturally that I would struggle to do. Like, maybe they're much more of an extrovert than I am, and they just so much more naturally make these one-on-one connections with people in ways that they don't even realize that they're really doing. But that making those one-on-one connections for me is like, okay, I've got to plan it. I've got to get square in myself. I've got to show up. And I have to take care of myself afterwards because I'm real true blue introvert, right? And so it can seem like they're not doing the same work that I am doing. It's just that piece of it for them is much more intuitive. It's just much more natural to them. It just kind of looks like it just happens because it's just more within their personality to do that in that way. Whereas for my personality, it does. It's like, that's my growth edge, right? I have to practice. I have to practice my networking skills. I have to practice remembering to invite people to work with me. So looks can be deceiving, right? So that person, it may look like their practice just happens, but the reality is they're doing all of the same work I'm doing. It just is quote unquote easier in that way for them than it is for me. And then I have different strengths. So maybe for them, their practice is really full, but their prices are way too low and they're suffering because of it, right? I don't have a problem with pricing for whatever reason. That's never been one of the things that like gives me pause every time that I've known I need to raise my rates, or I keep it on a schedule, basically, my rate raises. I just do it and I don't really think about it very much. Like I plan for it. I do good client communication. I have like my whole little system set up, but I never torture myself about raising my rates. Whereas I know that most practitioners oh man, that's such a growing edge for them. Like they put so much energy into figuring out how to raise their rates and getting through their own emotional content about raising their rates. And meanwhile, I'm just like, whatever, just do it, you know? So we all have our own strengths, and it can make it seem like, oh, that part will just happen, or oh, that part will just happen. Because like for me, I'm sure it looks like, oh, price raises just happen for Isabel, right? Because it's not a growing edge for me. It's just something that I do well. But the other parts of my practice, like there are things that, whew, man, tough stuff, work, right? And that's where the work comes in.
Yes, completely agree. And as you were saying, that the networking piece and the reaching out to people is something that you struggle with. You and I actually met because you reached out to me on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and there's been all kinds of great things that have come from us knowing each other because you stepped out of your comfort zone and you did something that to you might have been a little scary. And again, that's kind of some of the work things that we're going to do are going to be a little scary.
Yeah.
And I am like you as well. I also am an introvert, and so raising my prices is not that hard for me as well, but I struggle with something very similar, and that's the reaching out and networking, which everybody says I do so well, you know, and that's great.
Because you've built that skill.
I have built up that skill, exactly. And I would have never known that was something that was quote unquote scary or harder for you to do, because you have in fact, I feel like have built that up or still are building it up maybe, but it's coming across like you do it pretty easily. So
yeah, well, you know how it is. I mean, after 11 years, you get pretty good at something, even if it's uncomfortable. So
right.
Yeah. So I just want to take a moment to invite anybody. Thank you all for saying hi. It was so good to see all of you come across on the little chat thing. If you have questions about like, what does it mean to actually have to work to grow your practice? Like, or that seems scary, or it seems like I won't have enough time. Or like one of the things that I run into is I have people say to me, I know I need to do X, Y, and Z to run my practice or to grow my practice, but I don't know where to start. And so finding the starting place can be tricky, or it can seem really overwhelming. Or one of the other things, the reason that we all have to reach out to ask for help is because when you're just starting to run your practice, you think you know X, Y, and Z that need to happen. And so often when newer people who are just starting their practices, when they say to me, I know I need to do this to get my practice growing, and if I just do this, then my practice will just take off. And the hard reality is that a lot of times I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's going to do it. I don't think you're focusing on the right thing, right? So that's partly why Amber and I are here, is to give you feedback, right, from people who have been doing this for a long time and who have had successful practices for over a decade each of us. So yay, Johanni, you just graduated massage school last month and you need help with starting your practice. Yeah, so congratulations, yes. And I think, you know, within the topic of what we're talking about today, the first thing is like, I want you to take all that celebration and all of that excitement and like, I'm ready to start my practice. Take a deep breath, love it, celebrate it, and then also hold really close to you, this is going to be work, and I'm going to get frustrated, and I'm going to feel like I'm lost. And at some point, every single one of us at least has the thought, fleeting though it may be, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to give up. We all have that thought, and that's normal. It's normal. It's okay. You can have the thought and be like, all right, I'm feeling that. What do I do about it, right? Just because you have the thought, just because you have the feeling, doesn't mean that that's going to be the reality. It's just your thought and your feeling. So just get ready. Like, get ready for it and just recognize, like, yeah, it's probably going to be tough because running a business, especially getting it going, is a lot of work. And Louis, yeah, I'm having those thoughts right now. Yeah, thank you for throwing that in there. We all have those thoughts, right, Amber?
Oh my gosh, yes. Probably for at least the first 3 years of growth practice. It would come in several times a year, for sure.
Yeah. And so What did you do when that came up?
I just went back to, I really had to sit with myself and realize my why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? If it's really my purpose, yes. You know, I had to just really just do a lot of deep soul searching every time. So that's where, you know, a lot of that would be time to step back and do some self-care, which for me included some meditating, you know, definitely exercising, doing things that just kind of really feed your soul, get out in nature, yoga, just take some quiet time, you know, read some books that don't have to do with business for a little bit, you know, just kind of step back. And more than likely, you're going to be given that yes, this is what you're supposed to do. I mean, you've made it through massage school.
Right.
You stuck it out the whole time. There's a reason you're still doing it. Just the business part can be really challenging, especially in the beginning, and we don't get the training in massage school. Yeah. And we all have the ability to go out and have a private practice. And sometimes that takes help from mentors like Isabel. You know, there's lots of books out there. There's a lot of stuff you can do on your own, but it is possible, I think, for most of us. Not all, but most.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want it. And here's the other thing that I would add to that. I think you're exactly right, Amber. You have to engage with the self-care that really feeds you. So you can't make half measures with your self-care, just like you can't make half measures with the rest of your practice. You have to find the self-care that really resonates and like reconnects you to yourself, to whatever your purpose of whatever you're doing in that moment is, right? And then I think the second part of that is, for me, it's always been extremely powerful that this is my living. This is how I pay my bills. So yes, the self-care and the self-connection, so important. Yeah. But also, like, maybe even more important than that is I have to be able to pay for my living situation, right? I have to be able to pay my electric bill and my rent or mortgage or whatever that is, you know, like I have to be able to pay those things. So some days, even if I can't find the inspiration, the internal inspiration, like if I'm so tired or so worried or so stressed out and I don't have time for self-care that day and I just know it's not going to happen, then I would just go straight to, this is how I have to make my living. And so, you know what? I'm just going to knuckle down and make it happen. And I think that's one of the beautiful parts about a business, owning your own business, is that it's not just about your internal state. It really is about the nuts and bolts of living in the world, right? And that can be inspiration too, like just the cold, you know, we call it like the cold hard reality of I've got to pay my bills. So let that inspire you as well. It's a different kind of inspiration, and a lot of times it's not as comfortable, but it's inspiration. And you know, I tell this story a lot. Like when I started my practice, I sat on my butt for 6 months, did nothing, and racked up a huge amount of credit card debt. By the time my practice was really going, I had, between undergrad, massage school, and the credit card debt, I had like $67,000 of debt to pay off. And I refused to declare bankruptcy because I felt like this is what I did, and now I'm going to pay all of that money back. And using my full-time private practice, I paid back every cent of that $67,000. Like, I don't recommend doing that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying go out and like drive yourself into debt. What I'm saying is, you know, like when we're doing something that's really important to us, and we'll just make it happen. And so then it's about figuring out like, okay, what is the most important thing that I can do right now? And so going back to Yohani's thing, she's needing, or yeah, I think, Yohani, I think you're a woman. I'm sorry. I can't tell from the picture. It looks like it's so small on my screen. Anyway, Yohani is just needing help with starting her practice. And so, yeah, you need to find out from other people. Yohani, great. Okay, so she needs to find out from other people who know how to grow a practice, like what is step 1, what is step 2, and of course you take in the information, you take the best, you leave the rest, and you make your own decisions because it's your own practice, but really get some experienced advice about like, where do I start? Don't just assume, like I did. I totally assumed I knew what needed to happen first, And it wasn't until I started listening to more experienced practitioners who were like, whoa, Isabel, like, okay, I would really recommend that you do this instead of what you're doing now. And then I took that really seriously, finally, after 6 months. And once I started like doing the stuff that really made a difference, that's when my practice started growing. So, and yeah,
I just, I like how you say it's kind of, you know, making it non-negotiable, because you're not going to go work for somebody else. Like, you're just refusing to do that. This is how I'm going to make my living, and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of us, that can be super powerful. Mm-hmm. Really can. I agree.
And I will be the first also to admit that it can put a tremendous amount of stress on you, and it can affect your health, that amount of stress. So I was able to withstand it, but I know that, you know, I was in my mid-20s, and I didn't have kids at that time, and I could sort of put that amount of stress on myself and require that I just figure it out, work night and day until I figured it out. I could make that demand on myself because of my life situation, right? And yeah, there were months when I didn't even have an extra dollar to do anything else. I was like eating mung beans out of my freezer because that was all. I just didn't have the money to go out and buy extra groceries, like in the very beginning, you know, like I could walk that edge because of where I was in my life. And I also want to recognize not everybody is in that situation where you have that. It's a certain kind of flexibility, right? If you have other responsibilities, kids or other family that you're taking care of, you have to negotiate that differently. And at the same time, like, yeah, just making it, like Amber said, a non-negotiable, and like, I'm going to make this work. A lot of times it's helpful to have that push, that external push of, you know, like we have the internal, like, I'm doing this, I love this is meaningful to me. But sometimes that external push, the press of like, I've got to make this happen, is also very useful.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. And I tell people all the time, because I've recently started a new business on top of my practice, and
healingways.com.
healingways.com. And I tell people I'm making, so it's challenging right now. I'm in that first, you know, year, I'm in a year and a half into it. So I'm in that real challenging, growing big business phase again. My massage practice is thriving and just doing its own thing, and it's awesome, which I hope all of yours will do someday, and it will.
Yes.
Work. But I tell people it's a choice for me to be financially strapped right now, like it was in the beginning of my massage career. Like, I could easily give up this career, this new career, and go back to doing massage full time, and all my financial woes would just try to disappear. You know, I mean, the big ones. But this is how now I'm choosing to, you know, this is my new career. So I'm choosing to foster it and let it grow and put in the work and be a little financially strapped and struggle, because it is worth it in the end, just like how it was with my massage practice. And I was a single parent at the time. So yeah, I can totally relate to, like, not only so yeah, I did all the stuff, you know, the meditating and the self-care, but yeah, I did what Isabel did too. It was like, I don't want to ever work for anybody else. And I have me and a child to support. So I got to get out there and hustle. Yeah. And so, you know, some people don't like that word, you know, the grind and the hustle. They don't like that because they're not fun words to describe some of the things you have to do sometimes. Yeah. And in alignment. But
yeah, always within your own integrity. You never have to work outside of your own integrity to make this stuff work. But it's also just important. I think, you know, like we started out this whole episode talking about, this doesn't get talked about enough. And it's because of what I'm feeling right now. Like, I'm feeling kind of that staticky, like, oh, like, are we pulling back the curtain too much? Are we disincentivizing people to want to run their own practices? And I still feel really committed to talking about this because this is it's a normal part of running a business. No business. I don't care who is out there saying, I dream big, it happens for me, I manifest things and it's beautiful and I feel amazing 100% of the time. No, I don't believe it. I absolutely do not believe that. Any successful business owner works at their business. Any successful business owner who is a human has these things come up. It's part of being human, and it's not a failure, and it's not your weakness if you're struggling with this. You are not weak. There's nothing wrong with you for struggling when you're growing your business. It is normal. It should be expected. You should never, I mean, I won't say never, but I think it's doing a disservice to expect that you can grow a business of any kind, even once you know how to have a business, like Amber. When you start a new piece of your business, because Healing Ways is basically an extension of what she's been doing for the last 10 years, in the same way that yourmassagepractice.com is an extension of what I've been doing for the last 10 years, more than 10 years, both of us. But you know, like, I was like, oh, I already know how to grow a business. Adding on the second part, like, no problem, right? But duh, it's a new part of the business. Like, of course I'm going to struggle. That's normal, and that's okay. And nobody gets away without struggle in this stuff. So do not feel like you're alone. Don't feel like you're failing. Don't feel like there's something wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you for needing help, or for not getting it right the first time, or for nearly crashing and burning. The number of times that I've nearly crashed and burned in my business is a lot, you know, and it's not fun. It doesn't feel good. But what does feel good is 11 and a half years later, I'm still here and I'm running a successful business. And, you know, once you really get things going and your practice more or less kind of runs itself with less and less intensity of growth, like, it's not always going to be like super difficult, right? That's the growth period. The growth period is the headiest, hardest time. After that, it turns into more maintenance, you know, like there's always a little growth happening, but you get into that maintenance mode and it more than makes up for all of that hard work that you put in the beginning. But I just think it's so much healthier to know, like, hard work is here. And, you know, like, that's good. It's good.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. And when you're in that, because as Isabel has said, and I said before, we will all go through it. That's when you need to reach out for support as well.
Yeah.
However that is, if that's to get support to take care of yourself better so you can show up to do the work, get support to help teach you ways to grow your practice, you know, marketing skills, all of it. Get support if you need to. Don't just hang out in this is just so hard for a long time.
Right.
Because fortunately that is what I see happen a lot with practitioners. And that is when you'll start to lose ground. But if you know, you embrace it, you get through it, you get support, you will make it through, and you'll continue to go on to the next level and the next level and the next level.
Yeah.
Just hang out in that for a long time, and don't give up just because you're having those feelings.
Right.
You know, sit with them for a little bit and then get through them.
Right. And that's something, you know, like, it hasn't been happening so much lately, but when I first started the Your Massage Practice part of my business, where I have online program, it's NCBTMB certified to help you learn to run your practice, all of that good stuff. When I was first starting that sort of arm of my business, that branch of my business, I had a lot of massage therapists reaching out to me. Like, they were so far into distress, they had waited so long to ask for help that they were literally days away from having to shut down their practice because they didn't have the resources that they needed earlier on. And by resources, I mean help. And of course, money is also a resource and time is also a resource. But this help component of it, like, they waited until they were literally days away from having to shut down. And so don't wait that long, you know, like, it is really hard to dig it out. If you're that far under and you don't have, you know, family or friends that can support you as you're rebuilding back up, like, it's fine to struggle, but don't struggle for so long that it, like, tanks your business. You've gotta, like, I'm terrible at asking for help, or I used to be. Oh man, this is a skill that I've learned. This was one of my growing edges, was learning to ask and pay for help. And the more, like, I add the pay in there because like Amber, and I'm sure so many of you and other people, we find as many free resources as we can, because usually we're not starting with a huge budget, right?
Yeah.
And Louis, I just want to say, thank you for your comment. Thank you for those encouraging words. Yes, they are meant to be encouraging and they're meant to connect us all, because no one is immune to any of this stuff. We all go through it. And so learning to, getting back to just finishing up my thought there, when, you know, using those free resources to the best of your ability is, yes, do that. Absolutely. And don't forget that, you know, paying for help from people who really know what they're doing and can walk you through the nitty gritty of it. Like, I always talk about that one coaching call that I paid $1,000 for, a group coaching call on which we were all muted and the speaker spoke for the entire hour and none of us got to ask questions. $1,000 I paid for that. And I had to borrow, I can't remember if it was $600 or $400 from my mom to get on that call. Like, massive waste of money when I didn't have the money to waste. And yet, you know, I managed to learn things from that. Like, it's, yeah. And hopefully, but I tell this story again and again because I don't want you all to end up in the same situation, you know, but the reality is that learning to pay for the right kind of help is as much of a skill as any other skill that we learn. So after that, I learned how to look at programs better, to look at what help I was paying for better, dig into it, ask questions about what exactly am I going to get out of this? Think about, you know, like you'll hear, it's part of business speak, return on investment. Mm-hmm. You know, what is the return on investment? And so much of the sort of online stuff that we can invest in to grow our practices, it's an emotional return on investment, but we're business owners, so we have to take care of the bottom line as well, which means you also always need to factor in what is the monetary return on investment. If I'm going to spend $2,000 on a program, what is, like, will I be able to, in the long run, it doesn't have to be immediate, it can be 2 or 3 years down the road, but in the long run, will I be able to make that money back as a result of what I'm learning in this program, right? Healing Ways is how much per month? $22 per month. You know, so basically if, as you built your profile and engaged with what Amber does behind the scenes in the groups in Healing Ways, and it's W-A-Z-E, healing, W-A-Z-E.com. Oh, you commented in the comments, that's perfect. But for our podcast listeners, now you know how to spell it. You know, like, what is the return on investment going to be on $22 per month? Like, realistically, for the whole year, you'd only have to get one client out of that entire experience to pay for it. So that's a really good investment, a good potential return on investment, right? And these are things that they're not sexy to think about. It's not sexy to be like, I'm a business owner, I'm going to think about return on investment. You know, most of us doing anything in like the healing arts arena, like, we're
for, and it's juicy and squishy and
right. And we want to know, how can we help somebody with their frozen shoulder, or how can we help somebody feel more connected to themselves and their bodies? Like, we're not used to thinking about the businessy side of it, a return on investment. But the thing is that if you want to really help so many more people in the long run, the best way to do that is to keep your practice strong on the businessy side of it and learn to think about things like return on investment for at least part of your day. You don't have to like go all in on it, you know, but like get a sense of, how do you find the help you need to grow the business side of your business, you know, and how does that integrate with working one-on-one with clients? How does that integrate with how you run your intakes or your scheduling process or your follow-up process with clients? These are all deeply integrated things. And it's just, again, like, if this seems really foreign, good. Now you know your growing edge, right? You know something to look into or something to think about.
Yeah. And it's okay to be tired when you're doing
yeah.
Feeling like you're for a little bit, you know, Isabel, and I don't know if you mentioned this on the live, but you said something like, you know, as an entrepreneur or business owner, sometimes you just go through those periods where you are tired.
Yeah.
Someone asked, and I'm like, I'm exhausted. I mean, I definitely went through that with my first business, and then when, for, I don't know, 12 years where it was like, oh, this is easy. No, running a practice is so easy. And,
right.
I just have all this energy and I just show up for my clients and they just come to me and it's awesome. And then I started this new business and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like, the tired.
Yeah.
Isabel and I both have had a week where we've put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
And, we're both feeling that tired. We're not going to feel like this forever. We just, there's times when you're just really hitting things hard and you're going to feel a little exhausted. And realistically, I'm not perfect on the self-care in those times. I need to be better at it, and that's something that I work on. But yeah, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Again, saying this again, but it is okay to be uncomfortable and tired. Like, it's not just going to be easy and wonderful and
sitting by a pool and things just happen.
Yeah, it's not. And even when you've been running your practice for a long time and you get in that stage, which I feel is kind of like the 30s and 40s stage, if you liken it to the life cycles, right? Because the beginning is like labor and delivering a baby, and then you go through the baby stage and you're up a lot, you're tired, you're exhausted. Then you go through the toddler stage and you just kind of never know what's going to happen. And you're like, I got to keep this kid, AKA business, alive.
Yeah.
And then you go through, then sometimes you go through like a little pause and then things get a little crazy again. At the teen years. And then you finally, or early 20s, and you get into 30s and 40s stage and beyond, and things will run really smooth. But like for me today, I have my first new client. I'm not even looking for new clients. Someone just dropped in. I was like, oh, I had a cancellation. Come on in. I have a new client today. I have to work a little bit more today, right? Like I have to put on the face and make sure that I just, come across more professional and more put together. And I can't just show up looking like I rolled out of bed, which sometimes I do that with my clients that I've been seeing for 15 years. So you still, there's still times you have to work. It's just a lot easier as time goes on.
It is. And I think, like we're definitely here, especially in this episode, trying to normalize the hard work and that it is okay to be tired in the beginning. You'll be tired if you're really doing the growth process. I mean, it's a part of growth. And it's not even just that you're quote unquote working so hard, but like the learning process, your brain getting used to all of this new information, your brain getting used to you doing different things during your day, your brain getting used to this new way of being in your work world, which when you're self-employed, that's like it changes your whole life, right? So your brain is really getting used to a lot and you're really learning a lot, and just learning is tiring. So it's not even like you're going to be like physically running yourself into the ground. We're not saying that. We're saying like, this is, you can end up tired just from the learning process, and that's beautiful. And it's to be expected. So again, to normalize all of this. And like Amber said, in the long run, when you're doing a good job with client retention and you're really like nailing it with making sure that the back end of your business is running smoothly, you have a way of tracking your money, doing your books, and you have trusted people to help you with all these different things, it does get a heck of a lot easier. So, trying to both normalize the hard work of the growth stage and offer some promise that if you do that hard work and you really get these things in line, and you're working from your own integrity and you're doing a good job creating these robust relationships with your clients over time, then yeah, all of this gets so much easier in the long run. And then you will probably, because once you've owned a business and you know what's possible, then you just want to kind of keep doing it, right? And so you'll probably end up like Amber and I, starting another branch of your business at some point, and then you'll be like us and be like, oh yeah, that's a lot of work, that's really tiring. Okay, but that's good. So I just really want to
I think it's great. that you and I are going through this again in a different business model.
Yeah.
Because it is bringing this all up again for us to also remember that we were once there. I mean, like, even, you know, I never deny that I was once there. As part of my passion is to teach others that, yes, I was once there, just like Isabel. Like, and it can be really amazing, and it's so worth it. But it's bringing it up, like, really hitting way more closer to home that, oh, yeah, like, we can feel it again.
Exactly.
Feel it again. But it is so worth it. Running your own practice.
Oh, man, so worth it.
I mean, I would seriously do it all over again, maybe different, a few ways here and there. But that time when I was worrying and fearing for money and, you know, all this stuff, I would seriously live it all over again. I would never take it back, because this is the best kind of career to have. Like, you just wake up and you're just like, I can't believe this is my life.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is.
You hear friends, you know, complaining about their 9-to-5s and how much they hate their jobs. And I'm like, I don't even understand anymore. It's been so long since I've had that type of life. And I want you all to get there. And again, just normalizing it and showing you that this is something we all go through, and there is a way to get through and get to the other side. I hope that you get to the other side.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so inspired that you've all showed up for this, and then all of the people who will listen to the episode once it's on the podcast. And I just want to take a moment, because so much of what we've talked about today, we've both kind of talked about in other places. And so I just want to point out, like, if you go to healingways.com, there's tons of resources there. And especially if you end up joining Healing Ways, then, you know, behind the scenes, there's a lot that Amber offers. And then, of course, at yourmassagepractice.com, there's all of the blog posts and the tune-up classes. And we really dig into a lot of what we've talked about today about, you know, I especially really teach about the integration of all of this stuff. So, like, was it last time Amber and I talked about one aspect of client relationships and retention and customer service? Like, that is super integrated, even with everything that we're talking about today. Like, how do you really stay robust in your client relationships when you're tired, you know, when you're doing this big thing of growing a practice? Like, that is its own skill, right? And how do you keep tracking money through all of this? That is also its own skill. And how do you do the networking thing and reaching out and creating referral relationships in the midst of all of this? That is its own skill. And yet it's all part of a whole. It's all completely integrated with each other. So there's really, in the end, no part of your business that you can work on that's not connected to every other part of your business. It is all connected, and it is all integrated. And I think that when you know, going back to Johanni's like saying, you know, you're just starting your practice, you're just needing help with your practice. In a way, there's no bad place to start, because you'll end up doing everything eventually anyway. But, you know, if you think about it, if you go at it from this idea that it's all integrated, and if I'm going to work on my marketing first, how does my marketing, what piece of my marketing integrates with how I run my sessions? Like, you know, because like I always talk about in all of my classes, and go see the tune-up classes if you want more information about this, but very briefly, like, your marketing is the beginning of your relationship with your clients, right? Mm-hmm. So set up your marketing from the very beginning to be about, how do I want to be in relationship with my clients, right? And when you start approaching everything that you do in your business, how do I want to keep track of my books? How does that relate to your clients? Because you're not every client, but you're going to have multiple clients every year if you're running a full practice who need receipts from you for the whole year so that they can write off their care on their taxes. So how you manage your money, how you do your books, matters to the client relationship, right? And that's just one tiny aspect of how it matters to the client relationship. So it all functions together. It all functions as a whole, and it's really beautiful. And hopefully you can begin to grasp, like, it's big, and there's a reason you feel overwhelmed. It's totally normal, but don't let the overwhelm stop you from doing it, because it's wonderful.
Yep, second on that.
Oh, okay. Well, we are at the end of our time. Amber, is there anything you wanted to add in before we sign off today?
No, I think we kind of covered everything. Just hang in there.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got this. You really do.
Yeah.
And it, not going to pretend it doesn't take a lot of work. It does, but it's, as you can hear Amber and I say, it's worth it. We're always saying it's worth it. And thank you all so much for your comments today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, so, just a quick plug for next month's podcast episode that we'll be doing, the Amber and Isabel podcast episode. In December, we're going to be talking about planning for the new year. So, planning for the new year shouldn't happen January 1st. It should happen starting in December at the very latest. So
doesn't say you should already be thinking about it.
Yeah.
So on that note, you could start writing things down. And if you have questions, it's the first Friday of December, first Friday of every month right now, 10 a.m. And come join us, bring some questions, start writing stuff down, because 2019 starts really soon. Really soon.
It's going to be awesome. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
And this will be in podcast form later on today, so you can listen to it then, share it with your friends. We're so glad that you're here, and we will see you next time.